My dad demanded I attend my golden sister's wedding, threatening to cut my tuition. They had no idea I secretly graduated top of my class and made six figures. My father's name flashes on my phone screen for the 5th time. I watch it vibrate against my glass desk, the sleek surface of far cry from the scratched oak table where I did homework as a child. Outside my window, Chicago skyline gleams in the afternoon sun. 15 stories up and 800 miles from the rancher home where I learned to make myself small. I hover my finger over ignore again. The leather chair creaks as I shift my weight. The phone falls silent. 3 seconds later, an email notification appears from Lawrence Reynolds. Subject, your sister needs you, last chance. My stomach tightens as I open it, the words blurring together except for the final line. Chloe's wedding is the most important event of her life. Be there or forget about any future support. A voicemail notification pops up next. I press play and set it on speaker. Madeline, it's your father. His voice fills my apartment, commanding as ever. I don't know what game you're playing, but this has gone on long enough. Your sister's wedding is in 2 weeks, and the festivities start this weekend. If you can't put aside whatever grievance you have for Chloe's special time, then you can forget about any future support from this family. Your mother is beside herself with worry. Call me back immediately. A bitter laugh escapes my throat. I cross to the closet and pull out a framed diploma hidden behind winter coats. The gold embossing catches the light. Madeline Ann Reynolds, Bachelor of Science in Data Science, summa cum laude. 3 years collecting dust instead of hanging on my wall because old habits die hard. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Please call, your father is getting impatient. I glance at the calendar on my desk. Chloe's 2-week wedding extravaganza is highlighted in angry red. 14 days of ceremonies, parties, and photo shoots for the golden child's perfect day. I tap open my banking app. $138,947.32. In savings. More than enough to never need their support again, they just don't know it yet. A memory surfaces. 3rd grade. Clutching my report card with 5 perfect as, Mom at the kitchen table, nodding without looking up from her magazine. That's nice, honey. That same night, the living room erupting in cheers for Chloe's participation ribbon from the school play. Did you see how she projected her voice? She was the best one up there. Dad's face glowing with pride while I sat invisible on the stairs. The science fair my sophomore year. The blue ribbon I won for analyzing local water quality. The empty chairs where my parents should have been, they'd gone to Chloe's soccer game instead. She'd scored 1 goal, and they talked about it for weeks. Principal Williams handed me my award. Your parents must be so proud. I nodded, the hollow feeling in my chest already familiar. Then senior year, the thick acceptance package from the University of Chicago. My hands trembling as I read the scholarship offer. Chicago? Mom's forehead creased with concern. That's so far away. Chloe might feel inferior if you go there when she's just attending community college. Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. We've discussed this. You're staying local, end of story. The quiet negotiation that followed. I could live in the dorms at State just 20 minutes away. For quiet study, I'd argued. They agreed, believing I'd surrendered. 2 weeks later, I boarded a bus to Chicago with everything I owned in 2 suitcases, leaving a carefully crafted paper trail of community college registration and a fake dorm assignment. The calculated risk of my first real independence. Now I stand before my bathroom mirror, no longer the invisible daughter. My reflection shows someone they wouldn't recognize, confident, successful, unburdened by the need for their approval. I return to my desk and trace my fingers over my name on the diploma. Madeline Ann Reynolds, Product Analyst. 6-figure salary. Invisible no more. My laptop screen glows as I open the airline website. My fingers move decisively across the keyboard, booking a first-class ticket home. Time they finally see me. I whisper to my reflection in the darkened screen. I pack my designer luggage with precision, tucking the diploma between layers of clothes. A gentle smile spreads across my face as I imagine their expressions when they finally learn who I've become. Have you ever had to hide your success from those who should have celebrated it most? What would you do if your family only valued you when they needed something from you? My homecoming is about to teach them a lesson they never expected. The rental car crunches over familiar gravel. I park behind a floor span, unloading cascades of white roses. My childhood home has transformed into something from a bridal magazine, with ivory fabric swags draped across the porch railings. My mother opens the door before I knock. Her hair is colored a precise shade of honey blonde, not a strand out of place. Madeline, finally, her hug feels like a performance, too stiff and too brief. Decided to support your sister, I see. Inside, the house smells of vanilla candles and fresh paint. Wedding planning has turned every surface into a staging area. My father emerges from his study, reading glasses perched on his nose. He doesn't hug me, just nods over a clipboard. Good. You're here. The programs need to be folded, and these guest welcome bags assembled. He thrust the clipboard into my hands. Chloe needs these done by 4. I just walked in the door, Dad, and now you have something useful to do. Chloe appears at the top of the stairs, phone pressed to her ear. No. I specifically said cascading arrangement, not gathered. This is literally ruining everything. She spots me and holds up one finger in the universal sign for wait. Do you understand this is the most important day of my life? When she finally descends, she air kisses near my cheek. Mad, thank God. The caterer's threatening to quit, and Mom is useless with the seating chart. Nice to see you too, Chloe. Elliot's planning the surprise for the reception, and I need to make sure it coordinates with everything else. Elliot? I set down my bag. Her fiancé, my mother supplies. You'll meet him at dinner. He's absolutely wonderful. Such a brilliant investor. Crypto millionaire, Chloe corrects with obvious pride. Elliot Brady arrives at precisely 6:30, carrying an expensive bottle of wine and wearing a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He's taller than I expected. With a kind of clean-cut handsomeness that belongs in commercials for luxury watches, the mysterious sister finally appears. He grips my hand too firmly. Chloe said you were some kind of computer genius hiding away in the big city. Product analyst, I correct. Sounds intense. He winks. I've got some friends developing an AI trading platform, revolutionary stuff. We should talk shop sometime. During dinner, Elliot dominates with tales of crypto investments and exclusive opportunities. My father hangs on every word. So which exchanges do you primarily trade on? I ask during a rare pause. Elliot's smile freezes momentarily. Oh, a mix. Mostly private platforms, exclusive access through my network. Fascinating. And your company's based where? We're decentralized, he replies smoothly. The beauty of blockchain, right? I've got partners in Singapore, Zurich, Dubai. My father shoots me a warning look. Madeline, not everyone wants to discuss business at dinner. Later, searching for wedding programs in my father's study, I stumble across refinancing paperwork for the house dated 3 weeks ago. The property I grew up in, which had been nearly paid off, now carries a sizable new mortgage. Voices drift from the adjacent dining room. Lawrence, are you sure about this second mortgage? My mother's worried tone freezes me in place. That's everything for my inheritance too. Helen, Elliot has guaranteed 20% returns minimum, but $115,000 is you wouldn't understand investments like these. My father cuts her off. This is what building real wealth looks like. I lean against the wall, my analyst brain calculating risk factors. Second mortgage, family savings, inheritance, all flowing toward Elliot's vague investment opportunity. He's a fraud. Aunt Helen's voice is barely above a whisper as we stand in the back garden, supposedly admiring her contributions to the wedding flowers. You see it too? I ask. She nods, her gray eyes so similar to mine, sharp with concern. Your father won't listen to me. Started talking about how I've always been jealous of his success. Mr. Wilson down the street lost $50,000 in an exclusive investment opportunity last year, she continues. Sounded awfully familiar when I heard about Elliot's proposals. Madeline, a familiar voice calls from the fence line. Mr. Thomas, my old science teacher, waves. I've been following your career. That Chicago data science program you attended is one of the best in the country. I freeze. How did you, unlike your parents, some of us actually pay attention? Aunt Helen pats my hand. For the first time since arriving, I feel seen. Dad, Mom, I think we need to talk about Elliot. We're in the living room that evening. What about him? My father doesn't look up from his newspaper. I've noticed some inconsistencies in his business claims. The way he describes his investments doesn't align with how crypto markets actually function. My mother sighs dramatically. Honestly, Madeline, you've always been jealous of your sister's happiness. This isn't about jealousy. His investment claims don't make mathematical sense. My father finally looks at me, his expression hardening. You don't understand business at this level, Madeline. Not everything fits into your little spreadsheets. The front door opens, and Chloe enters with Elliot. She immediately senses the tension. What's going on? Your sister has concerns about Elliot's business. Chloe's face crumples. Are you serious? You show up after 3 years and immediately try to ruin the only good thing in my life? Elliot places a protective arm around her. It's okay, babe. Some people just don't understand innovation. I look at their faces, defensive, dismissive, deluded, and realize I've miscalculated. They don't want the truth. They want the comfortable fiction that makes Chloe special and Elliot a prince. The invisible daughter sees everything, but no one wants to look. When you see loved ones heading for disaster, how far should you go to protect them from themselves? Would you risk further rejection to save family who never appreciated you? I tuck myself into the corner booth at Rosie's coffee shop, the same spot where I studied calculus during high school. The vinyl seat squeaks beneath me, familiar yet foreign now. My laptop screen glows with open tabs, business registries, investment forums, social media profiles. 3 previous identities stare back at me. Ethan Lewis, Edward Lambert, Elliot Lawson. Now Elliot Lawrence. My finger traces the pattern on the screen. Same man, different names, same charming smile, different victims. I sip my black coffee, its bitterness matching the taste of my mouth as I connect unmistakable dots. Need a refill, hon? Margie, the same waitress from my teenage years, appears at my elbow. Her eyes widen as she studies my screen. My cousin lost everything to a man who looked just like that. Called himself Edward something. My stomach tightens. Lambert? That's it. She sets the coffee pot down. Investment scheme. Left town right before the wedding, broke her heart, and emptied her savings. I pull up another browser window. Margie, would she talk to me? A woman in her 50s sits across from me 2 hours later, hands trembling around her mug. I thought I was special, Karen whispers. He made me feel chosen. My sister thinks the same thing. Karen slides a folder across the table. Pictures, bank statements, police reports that went nowhere. Her jaw tightens. He disappeared 3 days before our wedding, along with $60,000 and my mother's heirloom ring. The photographs confirm what I already know. The account statements show transfers to untraceable offshore accounts. The police reports detail 3 other victims with similar stories in 3 different states. I thank Karen and pack up my evidence. The wedding is 5 days away. The knot in my stomach tightens. Where have you been? Mother's voice cuts through the hallway as I step inside. The flower arrangements need checking, and Chloe's having a meltdown about the place cards. I glance at my watch barely past noon. I was researching something important. More important than your sister's wedding? She thrusts the checklist into my hands. Your father noticed your attitude problem. He says you've barely helped at all. A familiar weight settles on my shoulders. The invisible daughter, now visible only for criticism. I find Chloe in the dining room, surrounded by sample table settings and crumpled tissues. The calligrapher messed up the font. She glares at me through mascara-smudged eyes. Where were you? I've been texting for hours. I check my phone. 3 texts, the first sent 40 minutes ago. You've always done this. Chloe sniffles dramatically, disappearing when you're needed, then showing up to overshadow me. The accusation lands with practiced precision. For 23 years, my existence has somehow both fallen short and been too much. I'm trying to help you, Chloe, by avoiding wedding preparations, by questioning Elliot's business. Her voice rises. You can't stand that I found someone amazing while you're alone in Chicago doing whatever boring job pays your bills. I bite back the truth about my boring job that pays twice what she's ever earned. Instead, I pick up a place card and examine the allegedly wrong font. I can call the calligrapher, I offer. Dad already did. Chloe dabs her eyes. At least he supports me. The living room falls silent as I finish presenting my evidence. Printed screenshots, bank records, police reports, and Karen's signed statement be spread across the coffee table. My parents said, stunned on the sofa. Chloe perches on the armchair, face pale. Elliot stands by the fireplace, his expression carefully composed. This is clearly a case of mistaken identity. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. I have a common face. People mix me up all the time. 3 different women in 3 different states. I keep my voice steady. All with the same experience of a man who matched your description, used names similar to yours, and disappeared with their money right before the wedding? Madeline. My father's voice carries a warning. This is absurd. Dad, look at the pictures. I push a photo toward him. Look at the timeline. Look at the pattern. I've never seen this woman in my life, Elliot insists, gesturing at Karen's statement. Chloe jumps to her feet. I can't believe you'd go this far to ruin my happiness. Tears stream down her face. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous? The word catches me off guard. I'm trying to protect you. By ambushing my fiancé with these fabrications, Chloe snatches the papers from the table, crumpling them in her fist. Chloe, I reach for her arm. The second mortgage, your retirement fund, Mom's inheritance, it's all gone to his investment opportunity. Don't you see the pattern? That's enough. My father stands, face flushed. You need to leave this house right now. Elliot places a comforting hand on my father's shoulder. Lawrence, it's all right. She's just concerned for her sister, misguided but coming from a good place. His practiced sympathy makes my skin crawl. I'm not leaving. I stand my ground, straightening to my full height, and I'm not the same invisible daughter anymore. Silence falls across the room. What are you talking about? My mother asks. I didn't go to community college. The truth rushes out after years of containment. I graduated top of my class from the University of Chicago 3 years ago. I'm a product analyst at Tech Fusion. I make 6 figures. I've been supporting myself entirely since I was 18. Their stunned faces would be satisfying under different circumstances. That's impossible. My father stammers. Is it? I pull out my company ID badge, check my LinkedIn profile, call my office. I've been someone else entirely while you were too busy with your golden child to notice. Chloe sinks back into her chair, her expression flickering between shock and disbelief. "And now I'm giving you one chance, your last chance at those, see the truth before it's too late." I gather the scattered evidence, carefully reassembling that this man is not who he claims to be. The wedding is in 5 days. His pattern is to disappear 3 days before the ceremony, once he has access to all the funds. Elliot's mask slips for just a second. A flash of calculation crosses his face before the charming smile returns. "I think we've all heard enough fantasy for one day." My father's voice has regained its authority. "Madeline, I won't ask again. Leave now." I look at each of them, my father's rigid certainty, my mother's conflicted loyalty, Chloe's defensive anger, Elliot's practiced concern. "When he disappears with everything you have," I say quietly, gathering my belongings, "remember that someone tried to warn you." The front door feels heavier than it did when I was 17, sneaking out to study at the library. This time, I'm not hiding who I am. This time, I'm walking away with the truth they refused to see. Have you ever had to stand alone with the truth while everyone you love chose comfortable lies? What would you do if you were me? Walk away or fight harder for a family that refused to listen? My next decision will change everything. My phone won't stop buzzing. I set it face down on my kitchen counter and pour another cup of coffee, watching the steam rise in the morning light of my Chicago apartment. 2 days before Chloe's wedding, and the notifications have evolved from demanding to desperate. I flip the phone over. 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, 5 voicemails. The first voicemail plays on speaker. "Madeline, he's gone." My father's voice cracks a sound I've never heard before. "Elliot disappeared last night. Call us back." The second, "The accounts are empty. Everything, even your mother's retirement fund." His commanding tone has vanished, replaced by something hollow. The third catches me off guard. "The police said without a written contract, there's little they can do." My mother's voice trembles. "They called it a civil matter. Please, Maddie, we need you to come home. She hasn't called me, Maddie, since I was 10. Chloe's text glows on the screen. "You were right. I didn't listen. Please help us." I trace my finger around the rim of my coffee mug. From my 15th floor window, Lake Michigan stretches blue and boundless. 15 stories up and a lifetime away from the family that only sees me when disaster strikes. My mentor, Vivian, answers on the second ring. "You sound troubled," she says instead of hello. "They finally believe me about Elliot," I tell her, "now that he's gone with their money. And they want your help." "Yes." Vivian's silence holds years of wisdom. She helped me build my career when my own parents couldn't be bothered to attend my graduation. "What are you considering?" she finally asks. I press my forehead against the cool glass of my window. "I haven't decided yet. Boundaries aren't walls made, Lynn. They're doors you control." After we hang up, I book a flight home for the second time this month. The difference: this time I pack only enough clothes for 3 days. The wedding tent stands half dismantled in the backyard when my cab pulls up. White chairs stacked against the fence. The elaborate flower arrangements, now wilting, still adorn the porch rails. My mother opens the door before I knock. Her makeup-free face aged 5 years in 2 days. "You came." Her arms hover for a hug I don't step into. My father paces the living room, phone pressed to his ear. He hangs up when he sees me. His eyes flick to my designer handbag, the watch on my wrist. "We thought perhaps he might be able to help with." He clears his throat. "Financial assistance. Until we sort this out, what will the Hendersons think?" My mother wrings her hands. "In the country club board, your father is treasurer." Chloe sits curled on the couch wearing sweatpants, and one of my old high school t-shirts she must have found in my former bedroom. Her eyes are swollen. "If you had been more supportive from the beginning, I might have listened." Her voice lacks its usual edge, but the blame lands familiar nonetheless. "You were always so negative about him." I set my handbag on the coffee table and unbutton my coat. The living room feels smaller than I remember. The walls still display Chloe's dance trophies, and not a single one of my academic achievements. "I can help with some things," I say, my voice steady. "Not all." My father straightens. "Now, Maitland, as your father, I can help you file police reports properly. I can contact my colleague who specializes in financial fraud recovery. I can connect you with a lawyer who handles cases like this." I take the points off on my fingers. "I cannot replace the money you lost." The silence stretches taut between us, but my mother starts. "I earn 6 figures. I have substantial savings, and I will not sacrifice my financial security to rescue you from a situation I explicitly warned you about." My father's face reddens. "This family has supported you your entire life." A laugh escapes me short. "Unexpected." "Did you? When?" "We put a roof over your head. Food on the table. That's the legal minimum, Dad." Chloe uncurls from the couch. "So you're just going to abandon us after being right? Is that what matters to you, being right?" I meet her gaze steadily. "What matters to me is being respected, being heard." I exhale slowly. "You need me now, but you've never wanted me. There's a difference." My mother collapses into a chair. How can you be so cold? I learned from experts. The words slip out before I can catch them. For the first time, they all truly look at Meta through me or past me. They see the woman who built herself without their notice, who succeeded without their approval. These are my boundaries, I say quietly. I will help you navigate this legally. I will stay 3 days. I will not empty my savings account or cosign loans. Those are my terms. My father starts to speak, stops, then tries again. When did you become this person? When you weren't looking. Is it our obligation to help family when they've treated us poorly? Or is setting boundaries an act of self-respect? What conditions would you set before helping those who only turn to you in crisis? Father paces the living room, each heavy footfall drumming his authority into the floorboards I once tiptoed across. As head of this family, I've always made decisions with everyone's best interests at heart. He stops, squares his shoulders toward me. This situation requires a united front. I sit perched on the edge of the same armchair where I'd curl up with books as a child, trying to disappear. Not anymore. Mother wrings her hands, wedding ring clicking against her knuckles. Blood is thicker than water, Madeline. Surely you understand that now. The familiar weight of their expectations presses down. I straighten my spine. You've always thought you were better. Chloe's voice cracks. Her mascara-streaked face bears little resemblance to the beaming bride-to-be from wedding invitations still scattered across the coffee table. Perfect Madeline with her fancy job and big city life. I check my watch. They've been at this for 27 minutes. The coordinated pressure, the guilt, the attempt to make me fold like the paper dolls Chloe and I once played with. She got the pretty dresses. I got the torn scraps. When I was 8, I say, voice steady, I won the district spelling bee. You told me you couldn't come because Dad had an important meeting. Father's mouth opens. I raise my hand. I saw you both at Friendly's afterward with Chloe celebrating her participation ribbon from field day. The silence hangs thick as summer heat. 10th grade. My science project on agricultural runoff won state recognition. The ceremony was the same night as Chloe's choir concert, where she sang in the back row. You chose the concert. Mother's gaze drops to her lap. My high school graduation, you left immediately after, because Chloe had a date to prom and needed help with her hair. The grandfather clock ticks in the corner, marking seconds of uncomfortable truth. Christmas 2020. I got you each thoughtful gifts based on conversations we'd had that year. You gave me a generic gift card with a wrong name on it. The front door opens with a familiar creak. Aunt Helen stands framed in the doorway, clutching her purse like a shield. I saw it all. Her voice wavers but holds. Every recital you missed, every achievement you downplayed. I watched this child wilt while you fawned over her sister. Father's face flushes crimson. This is family business, Helen. I am family, my aunt says. Someone in this room needs to acknowledge what happened in this house. I rise from the chair, my full height, suddenly apparent in this room where I spent so many years trying to shrink myself. I'll help with the house. My voice fills the space I never claimed before. I'll cover the second mortgage. I'll arrange for the credit card debt to be consolidated. Their faces flash with relief, quickly hidden. But I won't help with your reputation. I won't pretend Chloe wasn't scammed by a man any decent background check would have flagged. I won't lie to the neighbors about where the money went. I meet each of their eyes in turn. I won't attend any community functions where you parade me around as the dutiful daughter who swooped in to save the day. Father's jaw clenches. You don't get to dictate terms in my house. I do when I'm the one with the means to save it. The words taste unfamiliar, powerful, certain. My assistance comes with legal protections for me. The money will be handled through formal channels with documentation. You won't have direct access to any funds. Think of it as a business transaction, not a family bailout. Mother's eyes widen. We're not some charity case, Malin. No, you're not. Charity doesn't come with requirements. This does. From my briefcase, I withdraw 3 copies of a document my lawyer prepared. The paper makes a crisp sound as I place them on the coffee table. This outlines the terms of my financial assistance. One-time solution, not an ongoing relationship. I'll transfer the funds to pay off the second mortgage directly to the bank. The credit card consolidation will go through a financial advisor I've selected. This is ridiculous. Father blusters, but his eyes track the papers. Second page is an acknowledgement. I tap the document. It states that for years, you consistently favored one child over the other, creating an environment of emotional neglect. Mother gasps. We would never sign such a thing. Then I'll leave, and you can explain to the bank why you can't make next month's payment. The room falls quiet, except for Chloe's ragged breathing. Father reaches for his reading glasses with shaking hands. You've become hard. I've become honest. I remain standing. The world didn't break me. Neither did you. But I won't pretend anymore. He reads silently, pen hovering above the signature line. His hand trembles. Your mother and I did our best. Your best was deeply unequal. The words emerge without anger, just truth. 10 minutes later, all 3 signatures mark the page. I text my financial advisor to proceed with the arrangements we discussed. I pull out my phone and make a call. Miss Winters, we're proceeding with Plan A. Yes, the full arrangement. I listen briefly. Thank you. The documentation has been signed. You'll receive copies within the hour. I turn to my family. Rachel Winters is a certified financial advisor who specializes in family debt restructuring. She'll contact you tomorrow to begin the process. Everything will go through her, not me. Father opens his mouth to object. This isn't negotiable, I say. She'll ensure the mortgage gets paid and creditors are handled properly. The money never touches your accounts directly. I gather my things without rush or ceremony. No tearful embraces. No promises to call soon. I hope you find peace with your choices. I straighten my jacket, check that I have everything. Aunt Helen follows me onto the porch. Will you be all right? The afternoon sun warms my face as I look at the street where I once waited for a school bus, dreaming of escape. I already am. I walk to my rental car, back straight, steps measured. The rearview mirror shows the house growing smaller, but I don't look back. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some shouldn't be. Sunlight streams through the bay windows of my home office, casting golden rectangles across the maple desk, where I've arranged my life in neat, purposeful rows. My Chicago apartment is gone, traded for this craftsman bungalow with its solid bones and history. 1 year since I walked away from the Reynolds family drama, the diploma now hangs centered on the wall. Madeline Ann Reynolds, Bachelor of Science in Data Science, summa cum laude. No longer hidden behind winter coats, no longer secret. My laptop chimes with an incoming video call from Layla, the 3rd student in my mentorship program for first-generation college women. Her face appears bright with news about a scholarship interview. I use that preparation technique you taught me, she says, tucking her dark hair behind her ear. When they asked why I deserved it more than others, I didn't apologize or minimize. I told them exactly what I'd accomplished with it, and I lean forward. Her smile breaks wide. They called an hour ago. I got it. You earned it, I correct her gently. There's a difference. After the call, I step into my backyard garden. Spring has coaxed the first green shoots from soil I've amended and nurtured through seasons of patience. My fingers brush the tender leaves of tomato seedlings. These will grow strong, unlike the withered roots I left behind. The letter from my therapist, Dr. Chen, sits on the patio table. 1 year of weekly sessions documented in her precise handwriting. Patient demonstrates significant progress in establishing healthy boundaries and recognizing her inherent value separate from family validation. Wednesday afternoons still belong to the community center, where I teach financial literacy to young women. Last week, Tanya, quick-witted 17-year-old with a spark that reminds me of my cell spot at the warning signs in a pyramid scheme targeting her mother. I showed her the numbers don't add up, she told me, pride straightening her spine. My phone buzzes with Aunt Helen's monthly update. I scan the text. Dad and Mom still struggling to refinance the house. Chloe working part-time at the local bank, attending therapy twice a month. No mention of attempts to contact me directly. The boundary holds firm on both sides. The garden timer chimes. Time to prepare for tonight. The community center auditorium fills with steady applause as I walk toward the podium. The mentorship program I founded has been recognized for its impact on first-generation college students. The award feels substantial in my hands, glass and metal catching the light, solid and real. I scan the crowd as I speak. No empty chairs where parents should sit. Instead, Dr. Chen nods encouragingly from the 3rd row. My neighbor Mrs. Grayson, who brings me heirloom tomato seedlings, beams with unrestrained pride. Colleagues from work who value my analytical mind for exactly what it is. Friends who ask how I'm doing and actually wait for the answer. When I started this program, I tell the audience, I thought I was helping others find what I never had. What I discovered instead was that worth doesn't come from external validation. It grows from within when we truly see ourselves. Back home, I open my laptop to finalize details for the Reynolds Visibility Scholarship for academically accomplished students whose achievements have been overlooked. DSC question reads, describe a time your contributions went unrecognized and how you maintained your sense of value. A notification pops up, a mail from Sasha, my first mentee. You saw me when no one else did. That changed everything. As twilight softens the edges of the day, I water my garden with methodical care. The tomato plants stand alongside peppers, zucchini, and herb sage, one chosen, planted, and tended by hands that know their own strength. The rustle of leaves in the evening breeze sounds like whispered approval. I touch the stem of a rosebush I pruned severely last fall. It's sprouting new growth, stronger than before. Some things grow stronger when cut back, I whisper, a smile tugging at my lips as I survey the life I've built, thriving, rooted, and finally, completely visible.